Hey guys, John Rettinger here with two of the hottest smartphones for Verizon Wireless, the Motorola Droid and the BlackBerry Storm 2. We're going to put these CDMA Goliaths head-to-head in a series of tests covering browser and browser speed, text entry, customization, navigation, apps, and then a few other little features as we go. So let's jump into something that I use the most on any mobile device, the browser. These are both running on Verizon Wireless's same 3G EVDO Rev-A network, each with about 3 to 4 bars of service. We're going to load the same web page over 3G, and I'll show you how navigation works. Then we're going to load the same web page again over Wi-Fi, so you guys can see really which one's faster or slower. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to load TechnoBuffalo.com on each. This has been loaded on both phones, so it'll be a test of a site that you visit on a regular basis. This is a pretty text-rich site, so it should be a decent comparison. Let's go ahead and open it up on each. Alright, it's in the history there. Let's get it in the history here as well. Okay, and try and hit these both at the same time, and we'll get started. Okay, and we are off on each device. If you want to monitor the progress, you can see the yellow bar across on the Droid and the blue bar across on the bottom of the BlackBerry Storm. Clearly the Droid jumped out to an early lead. The fact the page is almost already loaded, you can start reading and navigating through. It's not quite done yet, and the Storm has yet to really even render the page. The Droid is already done and the Storm is still loading. So while the Storm is still loading, I'll show you how navigation works on the Motorola Droid, clearly showing that has the faster browser rendering. For those of you wondering, it's based on WebKit, the same browser that's found on the iPhone. So navigation is done really just with your finger, since both are using capacitive touchscreens. Scroll to anywhere you'd like. If you find a bit of text that you'd like to read, you can zoom in one of two ways. You can either double tap, and that'll zoom it in, or you can take advantage of the zoom down below here with a plus or minus magnifying glass. And the Storm 2 is still loading. So we'll zoom out using that magnifying glass we just talked about. One of the things that I always check when I view mobile devices is how quickly the page renders. So as I scroll, and the Storm 2 just finished, whether or not you see that checker pattern as you go through, showing the device and the processor can't keep up with your scrolling. That's something that you see here on the Motorola Droid. Really keeps up, and you do get sort of physics scrolling, so as you flick your screen, and you flick your finger rather, it keeps going. There is no multi-touch for pinch and zooming here, and again, all your zooming is done either by double tapping or using the magnifying glass. But it renders pages very smoothly and cleanly, and I've been very impressed with the browser on the Motorola Droid. You see rich HTML websites, and of course it has an accelerometer, so if you turn the device, you can view it in landscape or portrait. Turn it the way that's meant to be. There we go. You can view it in landscape or portrait. Makes it nice and easy to read sites. Turn it back up. It's got a very quick rotation speed. Let's take a look at the Storm and see how the page renders. And you can see them head to head. The Droid clearly renders page a little bit better. Brightness on each of these devices has been turned down, so you can see this on camera. This is also done via flick scrolling. Although there was that sort of delay that I was talking about. It's not quite caught up all the way as I'm scrolling, unfortunately. Keep going, and it's still taking a little bit of time. So zooming is done very much in the same way as it's done on the Droid. You can double tap to zoom in on some text. Takes a bit of a second to render. You can double tap to zoom in a little bit more. Or you've got that same hourglass functions on the bottom, the plus and the minus. Now go ahead and zoom out. And zoom in. BlackBerry's been known for fantastic email. Their email service is what's kept, I think, RIM going. Their BlackBerry push services is unbelievable, but they are not known for their browser. And the Storm 2 is really no exception. The browser definitely lags behind the smartphone competitors, in this case on the Motorola Droid. So let's do the same speed test over Wi-Fi and see if that helps at all. So Wi-Fi has been turned on and enabled, and of course we're connected to the same network, so we'll see if Wi-Fi helps the speed of the Storm or not. And again, we're going to load TechnoBuffalo.com. Quick search. Okay. Hit it there. Okay, and we're off on each. Now, Storm 2 has been much faster than it was on 3G, but certainly not able to keep up with the Droid, which is almost already fully loaded. And does not appear to be even that big a difference between the Wi-Fi speeds and the 3G speeds. So it's already done now on the Droid, and same old story, still loading up on the Storm. Navigation, of course, is the same as what we just saw. And as I scroll through, there's no page loading time, it's already there. So while we wait for the Storm to load, I can tell you a little bit of a story, because I think we might be here a while. We're starting to get to see some images. You can already view some text. You can see the Wi-Fi is turned on. It's got the Wi-Fi signal up there. And it's still loading. So this just goes to show you that if browser is important to you, the BlackBerry is not the way to go. It does have a usable browser, but certainly cannot keep up with the likes of the Droid. And we are almost done. So in the interest of brevity here, I'm going to cut this short because who knows how long we're going to be waiting for the Storm 2 to load. Let's go ahead and move on to the next series of tests. Finally finished up text entry. So text entry is done in two ways on the Motorola Droid. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new message here. It's done either via on-screen virtual keyboard, which comes up in portrait, or via the full QWERTY keyboard, which is down below. So I should preface this with saying that I don't really use either of these devices on a regular basis, so I'm not used to the keyboards on either. So this should be a fair test. However, as you use these, you'll become more accustomed. You'll probably get a little bit of increased accuracy. So let's start with the soft keyboard on the Droid. It's relatively spacious and quite nicely laid out, and as you move your fingers over the keys, you can see what letter that you want to type. Let's go ahead and start typing a message, and I'll do my typical "this is a test" message and see how it works. And you do get some auto correction as you go. So this is a test, not bad using the on-screen keyboard. Let's try it with the QWERTY keyboard. Now the QWERTY keyboard here is interesting. There's a lot of real estate space that's being taken up by this D-pad. The keys aren't really rounded or domed at all, so it's very hard to feel separation. I'm not the biggest fan of the QWERTY keyboard on the Droid, but let's go ahead and try it again and see how it works. And we'll type once again, "this is a test." So not so accurate. This is a Tez nest, like Snoop Dogg here. I think it's something that you would get used to, but the physical keyboard is definitely a little bit of a downfall of the Droid, a little bit of a disappointment. Certainly I prefer physical keyboard over a soft keyboard, but this is not one of the better implementations that I've seen. So let's take a look how text entry works on the BlackBerry Storm 2. Now this uses a unique technology called SurePress that you might have seen or heard from the Storm 1. It's got a capacitive touchscreen on top, but this whole screen actually clicks, almost like one big button. Now on the Storm 1, there was only one sensor, so the screen would just click in one spot. So if you're trying to type something that was in the corners, you'd have a pretty hard time trying to get the accuracy with what you wanted, or even getting the click to register at all. The Storm 2 really improves on that technology, something called Pco Technology that it uses. Essentially what you got to know is now it has 4 sensors, one in each corner, meaning it's much more accurate. And because there isn't just one sensor, the time you have to wait for the screen to come back up is much improved over the Storm 1. A lot of original owners lamented that they had to wait a very long time to type on the soft keyboards that came on the Storm, and that was a real big turnoff. So let's see if that's improved. We're going to go ahead and open up a new message here as well and see how it works. Okay, so you've got a few keyboard options here. Right now you've got a Sure-type keyboard similar to what's found on the Pearl or the Pearl Flip. It's 2 keys per letter and it doesn't learn as you type. Let's go ahead and try "this is a test" on this keyboard. And you'll see and you'll hear the screen is actually clicking. as I'm going. So a little bit of an error, but not too bad. This is a tat. Thud is a tat. I think you would get used to this. The keys are big, and they glow a blue color as you put your finger over it. If you go ahead and rotate it, you're going to get a full QWERTY keyboard here in landscape. And this was probably one of the biggest disappointments with the Storm 1. Let's see if it's been improved with the Storm 2. I'll try typing the same thing. This is a test. And I was able to type that actually perfectly. So if you have to compare soft keyboards, I think that the Storm 2 is actually better than what's found on the Motorola Droid. I even would go as far to say that the soft keyboard, the full QWERTY keyboard, is even a little bit easier to use than the actual QWERTY, the physical one found on the Droid. I think that you probably get used to the Droid as you use it more, but just in a first week usage, the Storm 2's keyboard is quite easy to use and a huge improvement over the original. So let's go ahead and move on to customization. One of the nice things about Android is that it's an open source operating system, meaning you've got the capability to do whatever you like with it. This is a Google Experience phone. If you look at the back, it says with Google. So that means there is not a skin on it. So nothing like the Sense UI that you've seen on the HTC Hero. However, you've got a full array of customization options. You can add widgets to the home screen, as you can see here. I've got a YouTube widget with a one-touch upload. I've got a power management widget. I've got a Google search widget with Google Voice. I can go ahead and hold down the screen. I can get a ton more widgets and customize this any way I'd like. I've got, see right there. I've got 3 home screens to choose from to put things anywhere I'd like. I can drag icons from my menu tray anywhere and put them somewhere on the home screen if I choose. So I can really customize what shows up, where it shows up, and how you interact with it. Now you can do sort of the similar thing with the BlackBerry Storm and the BlackBerry OS in particular. If you go ahead and hit the BlackBerry button, you can view the full menu items. Now you can move things around and change the order, but you can't control how many icons show up here on this short home screen. You are stuck at 8. However, you can determine which goes where, and you can arrange these icons any way you'd like. Navigation is done by the very familiar BlackBerry buttons that you've seen on BlackBerry devices for years past. Send button, the BlackBerry button, which pulls up a menu, a back button, and the end button, and of course, your finger. And on the Droid, it's done by a back, a menu, a home button, and then there's a search button as well. And that also uses a capacitive. There's a little bit of haptic feedback when you touch these, so it feels a little bit different than just touching the screen. These buttons on the BlackBerry have that same sure press click as you feel it, as you push it, so you definitely know that you're pushing a button. So let's go ahead and move on to the next series of our tests, and we'll talk about apps, since both have their own app stores. So on Android, we're looking at the Android Marketplace, and it was revamped for Android 1.6. The Droid is, of course, running Android 2.0, the first device to actually run 2.0. Go ahead and reopen that back up. And let's take a look at how it looks. So you've got it arranged by a series of categories. We'll go ahead and just pick one. We'll pick comics, and you can see that most of these applications are relatively cheap, and there are a ton of free ones. Actually not the best category to pick. Let's pick entertainment. So here I am now under top paid. You can pick top free. And one of the nice things about Android Marketplace is that most of these are free applications. If you go ahead and open one up, so here's one called Funny Jokes. You get a little bit about the app. You get some screenshots of what it looks like. You get some user comments. And you get some more about the developer. You can actually email the developer or visit the developer's webpage directly, which is kind of cool. And if you want to install it, you just go ahead and push install. BlackBerry has Blackberry App World, which works in pretty much the same way. Go ahead and open it up. Although I have found that apps in BlackBerry App World are a little bit more expensive than those found in the Android Marketplace. So your main app home screen, you can scroll through and see what the new apps are. It's a very clean interface. You can go through and view the same categories that we saw before. So I'll hit entertainment. Give it a second to queue up, and we'll pick gadgets. Big gadget guy. And this is still connected to the Wi-Fi network. So let's just pick one. We'll pick Big Tin Can Buzz Me. So this is a free application, loading up. So you can download it directly. You can see reviews, recommend it, screenshots, and you have to click buttons to do that. So if you want to click a screenshot, you go ahead and flick through, and see them. I prefer the user interface on the Android marketplace over Blackberry App World, but it's really going to come down to personal preference. I found that things here are a little slower to load in Blackberry's App World, and there are many more applications in the Android marketplace. So again, it's going to really come down to which one you like more. So guys, there are a ton of categories that we could have covered here in this review, but in the interest of brevity, I had to cover some of the ones that I thought were most prevalent. If we want to talk about email, for example, there's nothing better than a BlackBerry. BlackBerry has really been known for its push email capabilities. It works well, and it works almost all the time with very little downtime. We could have talked about camera and the 5 megapixel sensor on the Droid versus the 3 on the Storm 2, or how the Droid can capture DVD quality video even. But again, we're just a little bit short on time. So the final decision is going to come down to you. Personally, if I had to pick one based on my needs, I would go with the Motorola Droid hands down. But decision is going to be in your hands. For exclusive content, check me out at Twitter, twitter.com/John4Lakers. And to get all your tech news and reviews, check out TechnoBuffalo.com. Links to all of those will be in the sidebar. I'm John Rettinger, and I'll see you guys in the next video.